Greetings, friends. What are you learning today that will help you better serve God? Well, in our last message, we talked about how the gospel is found in the Old Testament. And what I like to do this evening is read a little short sermon, a sermonette, I guess you might say, by the late J.C. Ryle, whose dates range from 1816 to 1900. It's called The Key to Bible Knowledge. Okay? And I think this will bless you. It's very short. Reading from Luke 24:27. And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Let us mark in this verse how full the Old Testament is of Christ. We are told that our Lord began at Moses and all the prophets, and expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. How shall we explain these words? In what way did our Lord show things concerning himself in every part of the Old Testament field? The answer to these questions is short and simple. Christ was the substance of every Old Testament sacrifice ordained in the law of Moses. Christ was the true deliverer and king of whom all the judges and deliverers in Jewish history were types. Christ was the coming prophet, greater than Moses, whose glorious advent filled the pages of prophets. Christ was the true seed of the woman who was to bruise the serpent's head, the true seed in whom all nations were to be blessed, the true Shiloh to whom the people were to be gathered, the true scapegoat and true brazen serpent, the true lamb to which every daily offering pointed, and the true high priest, of whom every descendant of Aaron was a figure. These things, or something like them, we need not doubt, were some of the things that our Lord expounded in the way to Emmaus. Let it be a settled principle in our minds in reading the Bible that Christ is the center, is the central sum of the whole book. Did you catch that? Christ is the central sum of the whole book. So long as we keep him in view, we shall never greatly err in our search for spiritual knowledge. Once losing sight of Christ, we shall find the whole Bible dark and full of difficulty. The key to Bible knowledge is Jesus Christ. As one of my late mentors used to say, the Old Testament is dripping with the gospel. Just dripping with the gospel. Now, when I was brought up in this little Baptist church, I was brought up under the premillennial dispensational eschatology. So I was taught that, you got the Old Testament and the New Testament, and they're both in watertight compartments. The Old Testament's law. People were saved by keeping the law. And in the New Testament, we're saved by grace. Is that what you were taught? That's heresy. First of all, nobody was saved by keeping the law. For by the deeds of the law shall no flesh be justified. Right? You can't keep the whole law. You have to keep it all, first of all, to be justified. And like Paul said, if you break one point of the law, you're guilty of breaking it all. Because it's one cohesive part. One cohesive whole, I should say. So, the law was given to show us our sin. To make sin exceedingly sinful, as the Puritans might say. It was a schoolmaster to bring us to Christ, to show us our need for Christ. And all the Old Testament saints were saved by believing in a future Messiah. The gospel was first proclaimed in Genesis 3:15. That the serpent's head would be crushed by Christ, that his heel would be wounded. That was just an expression of saying that Christ would be put to death, but not utterly destroyed, but that Satan, his head would be crushed and wounded. He would be crushed. That is, he would be destroyed. And that's exactly what happened on the cross. When Christ went to the cross, he defeated Satan, our worst enemy. You see, we have sin, Satan, and self Actually, self is probably our worst enemy. Unregenerate self. You know, we often blame the devil on a lot of things. It stems from our sinful self, doesn't it? Remember that old commercial? Flip Wilson used to say, "The devil made me do it." Yeah, he's been the scapegoat. It's easy to blame the devil. The devil made me do it. The devil tempted me. Well, guess what? The devil can't be everywhere at once. He's not omnipresent like Jesus is, like God is. All right. Well, anyway, J.C. Ryle was a bishop in the Anglican Church, born in England, and he's written a lot of books. I don't know if he's written a lot of books, but he's written several books. Commentary on the Gospel of Luke, and he's written some shorter works dealing with. Well, it was written to young people, young men actually, and he's probably written some other things too. But anyway, we're gonna go through this series. Okay, it's called Christ in the Old Testament. I think it'll be a blessing to you. So this will be a series. This is the first in the series, and we'll just go right on through. We'll talk about the gospel of the serpent's doom by Spurgeon, Christ in Isaac, Christ's suffering prophesied by Jonathan Edwards, Christ in the Psalms, William Plummer, Christ the Son of God, John Calvin, Christ the elect servant, Matthew Henry, Christ the anointed preacher, Charles Simeon, Christ in his gospel, James Durham, Christ our righteousness, George Whitefield, Christ the Son of Righteousness, Richard Sibbes, and the last one, Christ in all the Scriptures, Charles Spurgeon. I'm not sure I'll read all these, but we'll go through most of them. And if you're not familiar with these people, you're probably familiar with Charles Spurgeon and George Whitefield and Jonathan Edwards. But there's a lot of other, and Matthew Henry perhaps, because of his famous Matthew Henry's commentary, which every Christian should own, by the way. Excellent resource. Matthew Henry's commentary. Okay, well, anyway, I hope this blesses you. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and share it with others. Till we meet again, may the Lord richly bless you. Have a great evening.